From rainbow-themed campaigns to inclusive diversity policies, corporations embraced LGBTQ plus advocacy, not only to appeal to consumers, but also to attract investors and top talents. Some governments also got on board, turning LGBTQ plus friendliness into part of their international branding strategy. But for the community, it's a constantly changing landscape. The Trump administration rolled back many diversity initiatives, with even liberal countries taking their cue from Washington, while many authoritarian and conservative governments have stepped up restrictions. To understand the shifting tides for the LGBTQ plus community, we're joined by Po-Han Lee, Associate Professor at the Global Health Program at National Taiwan University, and Minwoo Jung, an Assistant Professor of Sociology at the Loyola University, Chicago. Minwoo, you spent time studying Singapore and its evolution there, especially when it comes to the pink economy. Can you tell us, just using that as an example, the relationship between the corporate allyship and government?
The corporate engagement began in late 2000s, in Singapore, when this global DEI initiatives in the business circles have taken a leap, and it arrived in Singapore because Singapore hosts a lot of regional headquarters in the Asia Pacific region of multinational corporations, and Singapore heavily relies on these multinational corporations and the foreign direct investment and hosting quote unquote multinational and global talents, so that Singapore government tolerated the queer and LGBTQ organizing within the corporate territories. And then this definitely had the spillover effect I mentioned earlier, right? But then I think it reached a certain point because the Pink Dot, which is a LGBTQ inclusive gathering event in the public space that began in 2009, that had heavily relied on the foreign corporate sponsorship, and the government decided to stop it. So in 2016, they announced a new legal regulation to ban this foreign corporate sponsorship, as well as foreigners' participation in the event. So that's when the shift happens. As Peter mentioned, that we're facing right now in the global scale, what's happened in Singapore, that the void, the gap that was created by the new ban on foreign sponsorship was quickly filled in by the local small and medium enterprises, local restaurants, bars, and other small companies and businesses. Has that been enough? The size of the funding has been enough to keep it going, and then the event has been growing, but definitely there's the chill effect in a lot of big corporations, and those who are just organizing within the corporate realm and then collaborating with the civil society, bridging these two realms, have been much more, have gone underground, have been much more silent. So I think that dynamics between the state tolerance and then when the corporate engagement goes beyond a certain threshold, then the government pushes back and then they go underground again. I think that's the typical dynamic that we can find in many repressive contexts.
Okay, so Po-Han, let's take a look at what seems to be the other end of the spectrum, and that's Thailand. For example, it has branded itself queer paradise through its Go Thai Be Free campaign to attract LGBTQ plus tourists and activities there. But how effective is really the state-led pink marketing when it comes to enhancing the rights of the LGBTQ plus community and progressing their stance?
Yeah, so I think Thailand also presents a very interesting example. So the Thai government has been branding itself as like LGBT friendly country. Probably they frame themselves as the only LGBT friendly country in the region. So it's both a milestone but also a mirror of Thailand's changing politics, I would say. So the country legalized same-sex marriage earlier this year in January. It was a huge step. They makes it the first in Southeast Asia. So I actually went to join the Pride Parade in Bangkok this year. A large celebration for marriage equality, but also for more gender and sexual diversity goals. And very interestingly, I also witnessed like several groups of Chinese LGBTQ members, like groups, they couldn't do this in their own country, right? So it is very repressed. So they fly all the way. I mean that's the power of pink economy, right? So they could fly all the way to Bangkok to form a group and then to speak out for LGBT members back in their country. So that's very interesting to watch. However, I also could see that it was largely funded and supported by corporates. So although more politicians were willing to walk on the streets with these committee members to show their support. However, as far as I know, the event was largely funded by corporates. And in fact, legalization does not necessarily mean the Buddhist nation has turned liberal overnight. So based off my conversations with people in the Pride Parade, they were still talking about how social conservatism and traditional gender norms remain strong, especially outside urban areas. So although if we look at Thailand's situation only from the perspective through Bangkok, then we probably misunderstand the politics within the society. What's interesting is that greater acceptance of LGBTQ plus people in everyday life seems to have grown alongside the new politics that followed the end of the coup in 2023. So Thailand experienced this coup since 2014 all the way until 2022, right? So younger generations demanding democracy, social justice, and human rights. Mm-hmm. So that had broadened the conversation about inclusion. So I think the Go Thai Be Free campaign should be located in this larger context in terms of politics and economics growth. So it still works as tourism branding, drawing pink money and global attention, of course. But now it sits in the society, so slowly rebalancing its moral and political landscape. So I think the state's marketing of freedom intersects with the real generational shift, pushing forward for equality campaigns from below. So maybe we can interpret LGBT activism actually push forward the new politics emerging in Thailand. On the other hand, vice versa, they go hand in hand and trying to make Thailand a better democracy in the region. So I'm really looking forward to how it develops in the end.
That's very interesting. Now, Minwoo Pohan mentioned the China and the Chinese tourists coming to Thailand to express their freedom and be part of the Pride movement. What is the situation in China? There was a time when there were apps and even Alibaba was promoting kind of rainbow issues and activism. What is the situation now, given that the government has become more repressive towards other communities?
So I would like to go first. So I was also paying attention to the development of Blood is a gay dating app emerging in China. And then so there was a time when these corporates navigate the political spaces to promote LGBT visibility, but in the name of health. That's very interesting because most of the time they evade the political oversight or monitoring by claiming that they are doing sexual health projects. So we can also see how this corporates or how some LGBT organizations, although they are trying very hard to navigate the political spaces and foregrounding spaces for communal activities, on the other hand, they have been framing their agenda as health promotion. So that's a way they navigate the political pressure. On the other hand, I also witnessed that since 2016, the Chinese government has pushed forward a lot of new censorship on LGBTQ media, not only on the mainstream media, but also in terms of social media posts. So we can see many authors and artists who are creating LGBTQ images or fictions, they have turned to even more underground and using a lot of using a lot of coded languages to talk about to express their ideas about a better world, and that's what echo with what Minwoo just mentioned in terms of like BL or GL fictions, which have been quite successful, but they are also facing new pressure from the society, from the government as well.
I'm afraid we're starting to run out of time, so I want to bring Minwoo in very quickly and get your take very quickly on what is happening in China.
Right. So I echo what Peter just have shared as well, and we can constantly see this like dynamics between the queer and LGBTQ communities trying to move forward and utilize this opportunity of pink economy that opened up certain rooms for social change from the corporations and then beyond, and then the governments and the repressive states following up, and then follow up with more repression. Right. So this like repression and resistance dynamics continues, but then it also builds new pathways for social change as well. So as Peter just mentioned, that these content creators and writers and artists, they keep finding new ways, new creative and novel ways of doing something interesting, doing something. Sometimes it becomes political, sometimes it resonates with other people so that it can lead to larger social change. Sometimes it can be a little more consumeristic, a little more neoliberal, a little more capitalistic, but sometimes it can lead to other political opportunities as well.
Right. I'm afraid we're running out of time there, but this has been such an interesting conversation. We definitely need to continue this. But for now, thank you, Minwoo Jung and Po Han Lee, for being on the program.